Uncut, no mix on me, I'm all gangster. Gangster, 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 gangster. Cut, no mix on me, I'm all gangster. Gangster, 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 gangster.
Hey, what up? We in Code Red. I'm your host, the Playmaker. And we have a very, very special guest in the building today. Now, this is a special episode. We really focusing on the violence, the youth, and trying to save lives. Now, just a message to the YNs. Could you imagine getting locked up today, 2025, and coming home in 2075? Probably not. But right now, we have our special guest, Mr. Wesley, also known as Dirty Cheese. Some of you may know him, some of you may not, but after hearing this story, you'll be updated and informed. So what would you like me to call you?
My name is Battites Wesley, but I go by Dirty Cheese, brother.
Everybody knows you as Dirty Cheese.
It's Dirty Cheese.
Okay, well, I got some in-depth questions to ask you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's get right to it. Mr. Wesley, I'm going to start it off formal.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about the early days. Where are you from?
I'm from the city of Chicago, south side of Chicago, 43rd Street to be exact. As we say, state to the lake, heart of Lake Park, Fortray. I'm one of what's known as original gangsters, which y'all see on these, on your Facebook. I'm one of them guys. Now I'm now here based in y'all city of Milwaukee.
Coming from Chicago, the early days, being a part of the real system, I'm talking about the forefathers of what a lot of people are following today. Let's talk about the early days of you coming up. What was that like?
Well, the early days of the 60s is when what you all know as the gang structure today, what we got started. I wasn't a star in 59. I started in 1963. And I was there from every organization you could think of. I knew them all, they leaders, from the Disciples to the Blackstone Rangers to the Vice Lords. And then in the later years in the 70s, we got to know what you all know as the Latin side of the gang organizations, because we started out 100% black. And this is the starting of the organizations. Everyone had neighborhoods. And out of these neighborhoods, we formed brotherhoods and sisterhoods. And we were just saying that this neighborhood couldn't come over here. This neighborhood couldn't come over there. And it was real. It became real to, you know, if you see the movie Cooley High, if any of y'all saw the movie Cooley High, then you all saw the real deal of how we was raised up in that city and with these gang organizations. And we didn't start out to kill each other and to fight each other. That wasn't even, we just saying, don't come over here. Don't come over there. You stay over there, stay over here. But in the process of coming over there, now y'all intermingling. And so this intermingling, a lot of the fights started over young girls. As it was a saying I remember hearing before that that men go to war over women, and that's the truth, because we'd be at a party, as y'all saw it in Cooley High. Y'all saw it. Guy was dancing with a girl, and him and his friends came in, and it was this girl was messing with this other young guy, and based on that dance, started a whole fight. And it's the same thing happened in Chicago. We'd be at a party. When it went to their neighborhood, we really weren't supposed to be over there because they told us don't, but yet we go. Because we was the bad guys, just like they were. Well, none of in Chicago, none of the guys was chumps. None of the girls was chumps. Them girls were just as tough as we were, because they had to be. They was right there. They was right next to us, and they had to be just as rough. And so they'd go off and venture over there. Now, they called us. Oh, we coming. We coming based on them sisters from our hood. And they didn't got in some some stuff over there. And here we come. So we going to war. Now, when it comes to what we know as killing in the organizations, okay, this came about based on somebody from one neighborhood killed someone over there in that neighborhood. And this started off what you know as revenge. Now revenge killings taking place, because now this family over here gonna go with this family over here. Is what we know, what we saw in the Hatfield and the McCoys. What you know is the Hatfield and McCoys, these white people kept fighting, two families kept fighting based on they had killed their brother, they had killed his cousin, they had killed his niece, they had killed his sister. And in the same way with with the gangs.
So the Hatfield and McCoy is event that happened that you're basing this off of?
No, I just use this parallel of how the retribution of revenge killings.
Gotcha.
No, because we didn't follow no white people at all. We didn't respect them. We didn't have no sort of this is our plan. That was now. I'm just using that as a parallel of how retribution take place when someone kills someone from this side of the block, and then that side of the block. That's the parallel I'm making.
Okay, so once the revenge killing, once that got out of hand, okay, because you were there from the beginning and you saw it all evolve into something different than what it started out to be. So how did you adjust, or y'all try to adjust to the changes, the violence?
Well, what we learned in Chicago, we learned this here. By the time you 16, now you realize that you're throwing bricks at penitentiary. And you don't just go shooting somebody or fighting somebody based on their different organization. We taught that, listen, allow them to be what they want to be, different tribes. Allow them to be. However, if they come over here and do something to you, now you return back what's done to you. As we know, the Mosaic law, say an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, and a life for a life, which God said in the Leviticus law. That's where that comes from. And so that's what happened. But by the time you become 16, now the seniors, I've been hearing people say a lot of years, oh, the older guys tell the young guys to do. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. That ain't what David Barksdale, that ain't what Jeff Ford did. That ain't what Willie Lloyd and Big Pepperlo, they didn't do that. They tried to discourage the young guys and the young girls. Oh, don't y'all be in this, because look what happened to Lil's folks a month ago, 2 months ago. And this was going to happen to y'all. They discouraged that. But you can't tell a kid nothing. As I was telling my sister, you heard me talking, when a kid leave the house, it's like in Chicago, we had these projects, which y'all heard of, Cabrini Green, Robert Taylor's, you know what I mean, Henry Horner's, Rockwell. The parents lived up 16th floor. Kid got to come all the way downstairs to the first floor. That's 16 stories. That mother and father not able to see what that child is doing. And now this child is going down on the street and formulating a brother and sisterhood with this crowd. And they are following that crowd. Now, when they're in the house, they just as good. I just heard this young guy right now, this so-called YN. First of all, number one, they shouldn't be using a nigger word. That's a disrespectful term. You know, you got to think of yourself in a better light. You know what I mean? Nigger is not a good word to use. Back in the days, you know, we stood on that. And if you go in Illinois in jail, I'm telling you now, you go to Cook County Jail, you get hit in the mouth for using that word.
Mm.
To use that word, you get hit in the mouth by, because the gangs are real serious about that.
Okay. Now let me ask you a question. This is a two-part question. Do you think the respect level back then was at an all-time high versus now it's at an all-time low? And that's why the violence is the way it is with the so-called YNs. And reverting back to the high rises in Chicago, do you think that was set up by design?
Well, when it comes to the high rise, I even got a study out there on that. When it comes to the high rise in Chicago, it was really not made for Africans. What we know is African. Y'all say African Americans. I say Africans in America. We are Africans in America. You don't hear Germans call themselves German American, or Mexicans call themselves Mexican American, or Irish call themselves Irish American. They just say Irish, German, Mexican, Cuban, whatever. And so we are a proud people too. And I recognize my people. I'm an African in America. Now, them projects wasn't designed for the Africans. They were designed for the poor. At the time, it was for Italians and Jewish people. And so, and over the period of time, in the I'm gonna say the late 50s, now they start. If you read the study, I got it right out there on that file, right out there. I got it in my folder. The Jane Addams Projects, one of the first start of the project, and they didn't start for black people. And that same projects, I was raised in that project all my life, and I got pictures of number of white people over there. And them the same places I've been all my life. Didn't even know they had been there. So I learned the history. And so once it became what's known as the projects in the Chicago became known as today. They have, since I've been out of prison. By the way, I did 51 straight years in penitentiary right here in the state of Wisconsin for a murder that I was involved in of a off-duty policeman in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 1973. I went to prison December the 17th, 1973. I'm just getting out, April 15th, 2025. So now back to the projects. We get more into that. So today, nowadays, I hear of what's known as low-income places for Africans here in America. And so that is what was known as a mass placement. And like I've seen where they placing them, I seen like on 90-something to be exact. They took me someplace on 90-something. And so they placed them all in one spot. And it's the same thing what happened in Chicago. They took them and they placed them with this low income in these apartments, in these projects. And once you have what we know as a conglomerate of all kind of people, you know, thousands. The Robert Taylor's projects study says that out of 28 buildings, you had 27,000 people. And that was from 53rd Street to 22nd. That's just one street. That was state and federal. That's not the 25 blocks going east, west, north of building. That's just in one area. And so these projects that it was not designed for Africans, they were just all put in one spot. And out of that conglomerate of people came, as I said, problems and revenge.
So they actually said that the building of those projects were used as a case study to see how people would act in a confined spot and with poverty. Do you believe that?
These are the pictures of the projects what we is talking about. This is known as Cabrini Green and Robert Taylor's. But I have a case study to show that these buildings, I got it, was not made for Africans. It was made for the poor white people that was migrated to Chicago, Illinois, mostly from Jones Island, from New York, after they came to, and it was made. So over a period of time, the black people in the 50s, they started giving them apartments based on low income, because Africans did not have a lot of money for rent as what we know white people had. And so they started giving them to because black people also migrated from the South into the what we know from St. Louis. They came from Mississippi, Arkansas, Tennessee, Missouri, and they started migrating north. So they came to St. Louis, was the first stop, big city. Even though Memphis, let me back up, Memphis became the hub of our black people, but St. Louis became the north. Okay, even though it was part of Missouri, became the north. Now they came to Illinois. Now they came to Wisconsin. Now they came to Minnesota. And so this migration brought about an influx of mass people to Chicago, and so they had to have somewhere to place them. Now, they was always buildings, always have been built in Chicago. This is a big city, one of the third largest cities in the United States of America. Always have been, but it wasn't for the amount of the migration that came from that South. They had to put them in buildings like this here. And since the city owned them, what they doing today, they say, okay, low income, because the Africans did not have the money to pay at the time. And guess what? And during my time, during the 50s and 60s, rent was only $125 a month. But they still didn't have that. Because when they left the South and migrated to Chicago, they left with little or nothing, $30, $40. And what they finally could scrape up and give them. So they didn't have what we know as the silver spoon in their mouth. And so they put them in these buildings. And each building carries 16 stories, one floor to 16, and you got 10 apartments on each floor. And it just so happened, we as black people didn't believe in what was known as abortion. It didn't even become legal until like 72 or something like that. And so we didn't believe in it. So that's when we have black families with 11 children, 8 children. The least amount of children was 3. And so you got all these kids in these confined environment. So it's the kids that was fighting. It wasn't the adults. The adults, once they became of age and wiser, then they knew. Now, of course, they go to a bar, get in a fight, but there's only 2 or 3 of them. But guess what? In these streets, it's 15, 20, 30 kids fighting. And these kids then formulated what y'all know as a gang, called the neighborhood gang. And so now you got a gang fight, because you got the other neighborhood, they formulating too. Said, okay. They said, we can't come over there, we're going over there. And they going over there just to fight, them kids, them youngsters. And as I told you, by the time you become 16, then you realize that you're leading yourself into penitentiary. You get in these fights, or you using weapons now. You using knives and bottles and bricks and things that could really hurt someone. And you end up going to penitentiary. Because them white folks have, ever since slavery ended in 1863, and we know that it became 1865, what freed us was the 13th Amendment. That's what freed slavery in the United States of America, not what Abraham Lincoln did. He signed the Emancipation Proclamation 1863. That ain't what freed. He only signed it for the southern states. But the mentality of racism was all over the United States. And so 1865, which you all got in Milwaukee, one of the largest celebrations, if y'all know, the Juneteenth celebrations, recognized in Milwaukee, one of the big events. And I went to it this year, and I had one wonderful time. in my life, and like I've been telling my brother, I even commend the Milwaukee Police Department. They had, I'm going to say, I saw at least about 75 polices. And guess what? I saw at least 60 of them black. So Milwaukee did a good job by not putting all these white polices. When I was in this city in the 70s, y'all had plenty white racism happening.
So let's talk about this. We talked about the early days in Chicago. How did you get the name Dirty Cheese?
Well, the name Dirty Cheese, now see, guess what? I was known as Cheese from 1965 to 1971. So I went to jail, to juvenile, which y'all got detention. I went to a place in Illinois called St. Charles. And so I was there from 69 to 71. I got out in 71. One of the girls in my neighborhood, the disciple girls, I was a known disciple. They decided to throw me a welcome home party. At this party, one of the girls, me and her had an affair, as y'all want to say. Now, I didn't know if they had agreed because I didn't have no girlfriend. My girlfriend had broke on me when I went to jail. And one on the side, we'd have this affair at this party. And it came out that my ex-girlfriend was there, and the other girl who I had the affair with, some kind of way they got to talking about it, and she told it. Hey, yeah, he's with me now. And all the time, I'm really not with her. I just agreed to have an affair because they had the disciple girls that agreed. One of us got to get something. Mm-hmm. He ain't got no lady. You know what I mean? He out. And it just so happened to this one girl, her man had went to Anchorage, Alaska. He had joined the service. And so he was in Anchorage, Alaska. And so once these girls got to arguing at the party, now they told me, hey, they're in there arguing about you. Toby and Baby Doll arguing about you. And I was in the back in the kitchen because I didn't come out up front when it happened. And then I get there. Now everybody in the living room know about this situation, what happened with me and this girl. And they all looking, but they ain't saying nothing. 3 days later, in the pool room, I go in the pool room on 43rd and Oakenwall. And some of the older guys, yeah, dude, nigga, you fuck Baby Doll, without excuse me the language, you fuck Baby Doll, Ronnie's girl, man, that's some dirty shit, dirty. You ain't cheese, dirty cheese, nigga, that's some dirty shit. Don't come to my house, if I want to get you. And that's how Dirty got a tag to Cheese in 1971. And I've been Dirty Cheese ever since.
1971, Dirty Cheese is born. How did Dirty Cheese end up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin?
Well, 1971, somebody in my neighborhood came up dead, gang banging. Some Stone brothers killed one of the guys from my neighborhood. And I was just talking about this yesterday, but based on what happened once he ended up getting killed, them Stones went in the funeral home and shot this boy in the side again, kicked his casket over, beat up the morticians and whatnot. And based on that, my mother had a family meeting and said, my mother always had a friend up here in this city of Wisconsin. And my mother had been here visiting a couple of times. So she saw that there was not gang violence in this city as it was in Chicago. And she had a family meeting with us. And she said, you motherfuckers, me and my older brother, gonna get one of my kids killed with this gang banging stuff. Look what they did to that guy at the funeral home. They can't let him live. They shoot him again and did all this. And she knew this was one of my friends. And based on that, she ended up wanting to move out of Chicago, and she moved to Milwaukee based on the peace. And there was no gang violence. And it came up during my trial. They said this here. The gang until the GI unit, gang until unit from Chicago. and the FBI testified in my case. By police coming up dead, I was against what's known as the top people of Milwaukee. E. Michael McCann, Detective Wolfie, head of detective, Chief Breyer, all of them testified against my case. And it came with FBI. They said that we have 3 gangs in the city of Chicago, in Milwaukee. We had what's known as Commandos, which was some black brothers. It wasn't a gang. They were just like the Black Panthers. They was community activists, but they labeled them as a gang. They named the biker organization Outlaws. Then they named the Black P-Stones, which were an organization from Chicago. And they hadn't had no known disciples at this time. And so that's what they testified on stand. They said, and now these guys are disciples from Chicago.
Mm. So, you moved to Milwaukee. Did you start getting in trouble right away because you saw that the city was wide open?
No,
Okay.
I did not. I came to Milwaukee and I had some of the funnest times of my life. I was able to walk and go anywhere. I mean, as I told my friend, one of the days I walked from 14th and Elite all the way to the lakefront, something you could never do in Chicago. You could walk 5 blocks. Now you're in a different neighborhood. Now you got different problems. You can't just do it. So when anybody tell you they can go anywhere, been anywhere in Chicago, they didn't. You cannot go anywhere in Chicago. I done lived in neighborhoods. I told you about that place I lived on 69 in Stony Island, 2 blocks from the Black P-Stones headquarters. I lived on this block with my girl. I couldn't go 2 blocks, never walked 2 blocks ever because I knew it was dangerous.
And then you come.
But in Milwaukee, you can just go anywhere.
And wear whatever you want.
Yes, wear whatever you want.
Turn your head any kind of way you want.
Have fun, and ain't got to worry about it because at that time there was really not a lot of killing in Milwaukee, and was not a lot of fighting. And the only fighting, really, if you go to, I end up hanging out with the people in Hillside and Lemon Park, and then you had, once again, the glamour of people, kids out there fighting because now you got a mass of them, you know, but they wasn't over there fighting on 27th and Center. They wasn't fighting on 3rd and Brown. They wasn't fighting on 12th and Burleigh. They was, but in Chicago, them different blocks I didn't just name, is each controlled by a different family of gangs. And you cannot walk over there. You cannot go over there. Like they couldn't come over here. It was a 2-way street.
So, Dirty Cheese commits the ultimate crime and had to pay the ultimate price. And that was 1972. 1973. How old were you in 73?
I had just turned 20.
20 years old, 1973.
And I just got out of prison at 71 years old.
20 years old. I'm trying to process that. Going to jail at 20 years old and getting out in 2025. You enter the prison system, a fresh 20 years old. You had already been previously incarcerated. What was going through your head, if you can remember, at that time? Because I'm sure when they hit the mallet, they gave you, what was your sentence?
I was given life plus 15 years. And they said I would never get out of prison. You had 3 judges here in Milwaukee. You had Chris T. Surfing, you had Coffee, and you had another one, I forgot his name. And they all said that these men would never walk the streets of Milwaukee ever again. And when I was sentenced to life plus 15, saying I would be in prison for my natural life. And so when I went to penitentiary at 20, I was under the mindset I would never get out.
20 years old, 1973. And I repeat that because we're in 2025 and you're sitting right here. So, 20 years old, entering life sentence, automatically you thinking I ain't never coming home, so it's whatever. Was that your mind? Was that your mentality?
Not from really being in penitentiary. I had that mentality on the street,
On the
brother.
streets.
I had that mentality that I'm going to live it and do it my way, because what I was involved in, the organization I was involved in, we had became so powerful we just cared ourselves. It's just rough and tough. And whatever it is, let it be. So by the time I went to the penitentiary, I just took what I know into the penitentiary with me. And people that know me, they're going to tell you. They're going to say, yeah, Daddy G was a bad boy. Because I did. I was the bad guy. I was labeled as one of the worst of the worst. When Wisconsin built what's known as the Supermax prison, I always knew they would put me in that 10 by 7 foot cell. And then I did 7 years inside a 10 by 7 foot cell, but I did 3, went out for 1, came back and did 4 straight. And so I always knew, because I fit the criteria they said. I did everything you would think of in prison that was bad. I didn't capitulate. I didn't go along. I fought against the wrongs that I felt was wrong. I hated 3 words in particular. I always say this, and I heard these 3 words. I hear these white people always holler: line up, paired up, shut it up. Line up, paired up, shut it up. And they had other words. What that meant, they'll let out 300 of us to go to rec somewhere. They want us to line up, pair up, and shut up. Now, you talking to men, men and so they considered when us young guys, we were sent to Wall Pond. First went to Green Bay for 2 years. Started a food strike based on the food wasn't good, and at this time, like yourself, you couldn't even have a beard or mustache. You had to have your mustache cut off almost like Adolf Hitler. Couldn't have a beard. Had to cut your hair. Had to wear your clothes all buttoned up. And where I come from, in Illinois, I don't never remember that ever happening. I couldn't see people ever allowing that to happen. So I really didn't understand how these brothers was allowing this to happen without standing up. When these older white men had to line up, pad up, shut up. You shut up. What do you mean, shut up? You know what I mean? And so I fought against that, and to this very day, it's still imprinted in my mind. And so you couldn't tell them. They used to bring you a razor to your cell. I see a shadow on your face. If you don't cut that off by the time you come in, you go in the hole. And then come to find out they put me in the hole, I didn't even care. I cared that I was separated, but I said, I'm still going to do what I'm going to do. You ain't going to make me shave. You ain't going to tell me shut up. You don't control me.
Right. 1973, Wall Pond. We hear stories about that all the time coming up. We thought that was rough, but obviously
it was rough.
It was rough then?
Yes, it was rough. Do
there?
you know that in Wall Pond we used to have a boxing ring, and if you want a fat mouth, we could put in an interview request and say, hey, I want to fight this guy Saturday and Sunday. And you had no choice. They would go to the HSU, which stands for Health Service Department, Health Service Unit, and a doctor going to look and see if you don't have no medical conditions, he going to approve it. Now, Saturday or Sunday, we didn't bet it on you fighting. And you don't know that you finna come over there and get your teeth knocked out, get eyes swole because you're going to fight, or you're not using punk for not fighting.
Hey, that's funny you said that, right? Because I remember watching the movie Penitentiary, and they actually had boxing in the movie.
Yes.
But I never thought that it was a real thing.
Well, it never stopped until 1985 when a guy got beat to death from right here in Milwaukee named Sanchez. Sanchez, he ended up dying, got beat in the ring. I was right there when it happened. We thought he was just knocked out. People get there and get knocked out. And they brought him out, and the man, they took him over to HSU, come to find out he died from a blood clot in his brain for being hit. And so, but it was real.
You know.
Now that was a legal way.
Okay.
Now the illegal way, we just catch people outside and just do them.
No doubt.
You know what I mean? You got tough guys, and you just what's in penitentiary. You have what's known as the alpha male and the beta male, as you see in the wolf pack. That stuff is real.
Speaking of that, the scariest thing of us growing up in Milwaukee, right, and even thinking about going to prison, was two infamous names, man: Big Mama Green and Horseman. So, I mean, those stories.
Yes, I know them both. As a matter of fact, I just met Horseman's sister at the NAACP meeting last week. Yes. And
Hey,
Horseman was a knockout artist.
Horseman been doing time so long, I did time with Horseman.
Yes, Horseman was not. And Big Mama Green was a big homosexual that was real. 500-something pound homosexual that would attack men, you know. And
so that was
real.
A real story?
That was a real, yes, that was a real story. Yes.
And they named her Big Mama Green.
No, they didn't name you.
Oh.
Mama Green came in the penitentiary with that name.
Oh.
Came from the streets of Milwaukee with that name. Nobody going to picture the name. Oh, this is Mama Green. No, he was a big old fat homosexual, big old slob, 500-something pound homosexual. He came in the penitentiary with that name.
And made a name for herself. Huh?
And made a name, because what do we know about homosexuals? They're still men, and they will fight. You know, they ain't women because they are homosexual. They are men, and Mama Green still had that fighting spirit. And you heard what Mama Green would do. That was true.
Yeah. I mean, that was the scariest part of going to jail here in Wisconsin, going to prison.
Yeah.
Was them stories. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So you go all the way through the 70s. You go through the 80s.
But let me put on record, the most toughest man out of Milwaukee in the penitentiary was a name you didn't mention. Everybody knew to stay out of his way. Was a brother named Nickelbag that was raised. He was raised right there on 12th and Burleigh. He was rep on 20th and Valete, and he was so mean. He'd knock you off. You sit at the table with him. He was that mean.
Nickelbag. Was he a big cat?
He lifted weights, yes, he lifted weights, but he was just evil. He had the spirit of, you know, he was so mean. You know what I mean? Out of all the people I ran to the penitentiary, he was so mean that he was just evil. He was just evil with spirit, not in, you know, he didn't just, but he would knock your ass for a loop. That's what he would do. He would go to hole for fighting and he'd go to hole and come right back out, get another fight.
Just to go back to the hole.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah.
So, was Shanks and all that, I know in the 70s it probably was more relevant to have Shanks and everything. Was that a real thing?
Yeah, Shanks in penitentiary said, we don't have guns, so we make knives. That's your way of fighting in penitentiary. That is real. And people have died. But in penitentiary also, you realize, you should realize that you got all the mass of every crime ever been committed in the state of Wisconsin. We're all in one building, and we there for years. We in one, not one building, but one, we'll say institution. So you're going to see the same guy for 15, 20 years. You're going to see him. If it's good, bad, or ugly, you're going to see him. You'll see some people that get, for instance, I notice this. You'll see somebody get cancer, and they'll tell you, hey, man, I got cancer. And you're going to see this person deteriorate. Because this person ain't going nowhere. You're going to see this person 2 months, 3 months, till they whittle away. On the street, you may not see that person again for 5 months, 6 months. But in penitentiary, you're going to see them every day. Mm-hmm. And so in penitentiary, not only do we use shanks, we use locks and socks. We use rocks and socks. We use any kind of weapon. As you all know, the case of Jeffrey Dahmer and Jesse Anderson got killed on my birthday, November 28, 1994. I was right there, me and a brother named Spaceman. And you ever heard of Spaceman?
I
You-
never heard of
okay,
Spaceman.
well, anyhow, me and Spaceman, that the guy that beat them, he beat them to death with a lead bar, or a weightlifting bar. He took the bar, and so in penitentiary, we fight with weapons because you got all these bad people who y'all sit on the street in one confined spot. They are not. They're there. And so every crime ever been committed, they're all in one spot, in one institution. Now, I mean, you know, you got all these institutions over Wisconsin, but they still there. Walpond, Green Bay, Portage, Supermax, Fox Lake, Keller Moraine, Oshkosh, they there. They're all there. And they're going to form, they're going to get a weapon. You know what I mean? They're going to start out. They're going to originally start out with the fist fight, because they'll be fighting it start out the top three things. I was telling the sister here that the top three things you're going to get in a fight. I told you too. You're going to get in a fight. Number one, basketball. You're going to get in a fight. You play basketball, just the facts of life, prison life. You know, because you bumping them and they'll say, ain't no foul, punk. Ain't no you foul, you bitch. You know, they're going to happen. Number two, gambling. Sure you gamble, sure you're going to get in a fight. Because somebody not going to like losing, and he going to fatten mouth. You're not going to let him fatten mouth. It's just don't. Number three, homosexuality. If you engage in homosexuality, you're going to be attacked. So we're going to attack you. Gay bashing is real in prison. You know what I mean? It ain't, you know. Now,
is that something new? Or?
No, that's not new. It always have been, always will be. Every penitentiary, if you read about history of penitentiary, if you see it, what you see on TV, homosexuality is not a common thing.
I mean, well, why Big Mama Green was held in such high regard? Why
No. Mama Green not there. We talked about her too. Talk about Mama Green. You punk motherfucker. No, you had no reason to. You only attack them when they come to you.
Okay.
If they don't bring it to you, they're entitled to be what they want to be. If they don't bring that mess to you, that's on them. But guess what? You're going to say, oh, look at this, you fag, get on away from me. You're going to say it.
Mm-hmm.
See, abuse is not just physical, emotional too.
Okay. So you go through the 70s, the 80s. Here come the 90s. The evolution of young cats that's coming in are changing. The styles, the way they talk. Do you think that as the time went on, the people that start coming in got softer? Because now we get into where they sagging their pants and, you know, how do you feel about that?
Well, what I think about that, not just the sagging of pants. I think, as I told my brother, that society now, I see they're walking around with house shoes. They walking around with bonnets on their head. They walking around with sagging pants. They walking around with skin tight pants. It's called skinny jeans. They walking around, you know, they're no longer dressing like they used to, you know. But times change, and with me, you know, I gotta accept people for who they are. You know, I learned to you know, I see that this is the trend. That's what they do. Now, I would never fall into it. That ain't my style, you know. I'll never fall into it. You got to be an individual to stand up and do your way and do it with how you want to do it. You see? And so, you know, young kids got to grow. They got to learn. They got to learn. They got to go through their phases. Because at one time, I remember when I was young, I remember the hippie movement. I remember seeing the change of what, okay, I was around. Tell you a story. 1966, the person y'all know as Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King moved to the west side of Chicago on between 15 and 16 in Lawndale. Him and his wife, Coretta Scott King. And so they moved in the heart of what we know the Viceroy, conservative Viceroy neighborhood. You can read about this in history. It's in books. They told Martin Luther King, say, Martin, just so you know, this city is ran by the gangs. They run these streets. And Martin, look it up. Look this up. You put it up right now. You pull it up. 1966. He had to negotiate with the gang leaders to demonstrate to the streets of Chicago, I was there. I wasn't in the meeting, I was outside for security reasons, okay? And they told him, what they do in other cities, it's not gonna work here in Chicago. You got to get these gangs to control, because they control these streets. And so the young people, it's a book written called The Destruction of the Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. He even gave credit to the black organizations of the streets. So y'all want to know what changed this society? Which y'all can call them gangs if you want to, but they changed this society. They the one made the white people get back off. It wasn't the Black Panthers, so I'm not saying that because they didn't come about until 1966. The black gangs in Chicago started in the 50s. And then if you look at your history, you'll find out they go back to the 40s. And they were real. That stuff made them, when we walked downtown, we didn't told them, make way for the king. He's coming through. Now, guess what? Our leader was way back there. But the police and everybody getting back because we are force. They are force. They was all out there, hundreds of police. But guess what? We had thousands. And so they knew to respect these organizations because we had an army. And so I say that the young people today, they got to grow. You got to give them that thing to go. But it's for us let me say 1 minute. It's for us as adults and grown and experienced to tell them. You got to admonish. You got to admonish them. I'm telling you now, if you don't, they're going to do it. I don't care what they saying about, we just win. It don't mean nothing. I'll walk up on them to this very day and check them. I ain't worried about them shooting me or killing me, none of that. That's up between God. The time to die is up to God. Okay.
But you grew up in the prison system, right?
Yes.
If you could talk to your 20-year-old self right now, what would you tell him?
I would have told him, man, don't worry. You're going to make it. You're going to get through it. In regards to what they say you'll never get out, you're going to get out. Because I didn't have a frame of mind that I would ever get out. And now let me say this here, too. I'm going to say this here. In 1986, it was kicking me out of Wall Pond. Kicking me out. I was too bad. I had took over the prison and all that stuff, and it had been in too much gang violence and all that stuff. They was kicking me out. They said, we'll give you a new start. So they were sending me to Kettle Moraine. But the day before I left, a white guy stopped me, and this is the truth. This is my testimony about God. Now we're moving on to God. And a white guy stopped me and said, Dirty Cheese, I heard you leaving from amongst us. I'd like to pray for you. I looked around because at this time, I was a serious Muslim. Bismillah, Rahman Rahim, but there's no other God Allah but Allah. This is what I was praying. I showed you a picture the other day. I was married to a Muslim sister, a Muslim family, the Mohammeds. And I was serious about Islam. I helped start what's known in Wisconsin prison system. I was part of the movement of starting the Ramadan in the prison system. And there was no Ramadan. They locked us up saying we was a gang because we want to participate in Ramadan, which was Ben Relly now. And they locked us up. And then they gave us pork chop sandwiches trying to break us. However, in 86, the guy said, want to pray for me. I said, well, go and pray, man. I didn't like him because he was a Christian. I didn't like him. 1, he was white. 2, he was a Christian. 3, I never talked to him, you know. And not knowing that God had ordained this man to pray for me. And so he said, well, just let me pray. I said, well, go and pray, man. I said, I pray to the east. I'm like, I'm a Muslim. I don't pray that way you pray. He said, okay. He said, Brother Cheese, he said, I'd like you to hold my hand through the bar. I said, man, that's homosexual stuff. I don't hold men's hands. So he said, just pray with me. Please, brother. He said, I'm not a homosexual. You know I'm not a homosexual. I said, okay. I looked around here, make somebody not looking, grab this guy's hand, start praying. The sinner's prayer came out of my mouth. Lord Jesus, come into my life, make me a new creature, Lord God. Forgive me of my sins. Something I didn't even know. At that very moment, I'm telling you, the Holy Spirit, which y'all know is the Holy Ghost, touched me. I felt it. But I didn't know what it was. But it came. So I went around, went on them around the tier, got high, left the next day, went to another place, to Catamaran, and during the orientation, our pastor said, yeah, we know we got we do Bible study, we got Muslim service, blah, blah. And so he mentioned something that caught my attention. God did this. He mentioned, yeah, we serve donuts and coffee. I hadn't had no real donuts besides prison donuts in years. It's 86. Since 73 to 86, no real donuts from the street. And God knew that would catch my attention. So I said to him, I'm going to say to myself, I'm going to go there and get some of them donuts. When I went there, surely they had a box of donuts, all different kinds. You name it, jelly donuts, glazed donuts, chocolate donuts, in a box from the street. So I decided to eat some donuts and drink coffee. God knew I can get him this way. And so they had a Bible study, and they asked me to read. And when it got to me, I'm so busy eating donuts, I ain't even thinking about no Bible. Then they showed me, or read this verse. I read that. And the more I read, brother, the real it became. That stuff in the Bible, I'm telling you, God came in a mighty way. Because to this very day, Dirty Cheese, Battites Wesley, is a devout man of God. I serve the Lord. I go to 2 churches, and I'm just as happy. And I know the words is real. I'm not a preacher, but I'm a teacher. God has showed me the Bible. Is it the Bible tell you the mysteries of the Bible? He just showed it to me. And I know it's real. And so, based on the transition of what the Bible says, it says in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 17 or 18, it say, old things passed away. Behold, all things become new. New creature in Christ. That became me. I became that new man, that new creature in Christ. And I'm saying now, for this interview, Lee, I'm saying stop the violence. And I do go to the young people. The people tell you, ask them, I go on that lakefront. I go on the lakefront and step amongst them. I don't sit around in the car. I get right out there and go out that tongue and get a crowd of them. Hey, what are you doing? What y'all getting yourself into, man? Y'all realize what you're going to... And all they say, oh, old school, man, you look good, blah, yeah, okay, but let me tell you about this here. Guess what? I got out of the penitentiary. This stuff real, man. They'll put you in penitentiary for that stuff y'all getting yourself into. Rare, yeah, man. Man, don't nobody bother me. That's all good. But guess what? You're still throwing bricks at penitentiary. And that's going to be my campaign in the city of Milwaukee. As they say, I hear this saying, if I just stop one, no, I don't want to stop one. I want to stop a few, a lot.
Okay. In closing, there's going to be a lot of young people watching this. I want you to look in the camera, and I want you to give a strong but direct message to them that if they keep on the path they're going to end up where you just came from. And they may not be as lucky as you to come home in 52 years.
Hello, y'all. Let me say this here. Penitentiary is real. You may think that if you shoot this person, that is over with. Guess what? Your problem just begun. Because now you got the police department coming at you, and the friends that you think around you, guess what they're going to say? Oh, it wasn't me. It was him. Where he live at? Oh, he live over there. Your own family members, your own sister, brother, mother, father, the police came here looking for you. And guess what they looking for you? For the shooting you did, or the stabbing you did, or the cutting you did, or the fighting you did. And your problem just begun with what's known as this system. Now you're going to deal with the police. Now you're going to deal with the district attorney. Now you're going to deal with the courts. Now you're going to deal with the prison. Because you're going now. It's just the facts of life. And I'm saying this here. Think before you react. Because now you're looking at a living witness. Somebody that did that and didn't think. Because I was an immature, unthinking, unwise, didn't realize what I was getting myself into. Because if I did, I wouldn't have did it. And now that I have done it, now it's too late. Look at my life. I'm an old man. I went to penitentiary as a young teenager, kid. And the same thing would happen, or gonna happen, to you all. Because this is what the system got set up. And it's nothing new. As you see, been going on all the time. And you will be the next one in line based on the money. That's all you're going to be to them. A number and money. And you're going to, not only when you go to penitentiary, you're going to lose your family. People in your family are going to die. You're not going to be there to support them. You're going to lose your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your aunt, your grandmother. And you're going to be in penitentiary in a cell, locked up, crying, thinking about what you got yourself into. And here goes something else. The gang violence. You're going to get to penitentiary, and you're going to realize that the gangs in prison don't even fight. We live in the cell together. We make hookups. We cook together. We play dominoes. We play spades together. There's no fight. This is the stuff that's on the street that y'all got in y'all mind. Y'all got to fight this different gang because he or she down there on that corner, on you on this corner. You're going to go right to penitentiary and find out that same guy you was fighting, both of y'all in penitentiary for doing something that you shouldn't have did, and you're going to realize, damn, we friends. Guess what? You could have been friends all the time because you're going to go to penitentiary and realize that that's not your enemy.
Well, you heard it. In closing, first of all, I want to congratulate you and welcome you home.
Thank you.
And I know that you have a purpose. And I know that your calling, that you were put out here to save the youth. So I want to take time to thank you for coming to the platform, sitting on the couch at Code Red. We usually say where there's smoke, there's fire, but not today. We thanking Dirty Cheese, the legend himself, for coming to sit on the couch. I'm your host, the Playmaker. This is Dirty Cheese, and we out.
Thank y'all for listening.
Look, baby, hop on this dick and ride like a Kawasaki. I be in mood almost every song.